In 2015, a 55-year-old woman named Natalia and her 82-year-old friend named Valia, they met up and they went on a nice little trip into the forest to collect tree sap, something that they did often together, something that they loved to do, and so they were looking forward to this trip. And as they're out there, Natalia is looking around, she looks at the ground and sees the leaves everywhere, the trees everywhere, and she's thinking, this is such a perfect day, it couldn't be better. And so after filling many mason jars with tree sap, Natalia thinks she's done for the day and looks over at her friend Valia, but she sees that Valia is now tapping into this big tree and she really wants to get this tree sap. And so she figures, I'll just go find my dog first. And she starts looking for her dog and she sees her dog just running around, and then it comes to a complete stop. Her dog stops and just looks into the woods like it sees something. And so Natalia, she kind of leans over and peeks over to see what her dog's looking at. And she thinks she sees something moving behind the trees, but she's not sure. So she moves a little bit closer to get a better look, when all of a sudden, an enormous Russian brown bear jumps out of the forest from behind the trees and is now right in front of Natalia, focused on her little dog. And Natalia is terrified. She sees this. She's totally caught off guard. And so instinct kicks in, to which she turns around and immediately just starts running. She forgets about her friend, her dog. She just gets out of there. And so as she's running away, she remembers her friend is still there tapping trees. And so she turns around, and Valia is 82. She doesn't have good hearing. And she sees Valia still sitting there tapping the tree, unaware of this giant brown bear that's right in front of her. And so Natalia starts screaming at her friend to get her attention, to try to run from this bear. But all this did was get the bear's attention to focus on Natalia, to which she starts running again. And before she could even take a couple steps, the bear catches up to her and bites down on her leg and pins her to the ground. The bear now starts eating Natalia alive, and at this point, Natalia is freaking out and she lets out this blood-curdling scream. And this is what finally got Valia's attention. And so Valia looks up, she hears this terrifying scream, and she sees her friend not too far off in the distance getting mauled alive by this giant brown bear. And so Valia, keep in mind she's 82 years old, she gets up and starts running towards this bear and starts trying to get it off of her friend. She's beating it and punching it, and this bear barely even notices her, but it lifts up off of Natalia and looks over at Valia. And now Valia is totally terrified. She sees this brown bear. She's face to face with it. And so she just starts running. And now the brown bear is focused on Valia running away, but Natalia sees this happening. The one who's on the ground, she sees this happening, and she sees the bear is now focused on Valia. But in an effort to save her friend Valia from getting mauled alive too, Natalia starts screaming at the bear, getting its attention to focus back on her so that it doesn't go after her friend and so that her friend can escape. And so the bear turns away from Valia and focuses back on Natalia and just picks her up by the neck and carries her off into the woods because it doesn't want to deal with any more distractions. And so Valia, she runs out of the woods. She runs to her car, she dials up authorities on her phone, and about 40 minutes later, some hunters and animal control make their way out to the site, and they're going to try to take care of this bear. It didn't take too long before the hunters were able to locate this bear, and it tried to attack them, but luckily they were able to shoot the bear before it did any more harm to anybody. But they don't see Natalia anywhere. But they do see Natalia's dog, because it runs out of the forest and starts barking at them, but then kind of double takes and runs back into the forest like it's trying to get their attention. And so the hunters, naturally, they just follow the dog to where it's trying to lead them, and it leads them to a little lump on the ground. And so they kick off the leaves and sticks, and they see it's Natalia that was buried under loose leaves and sticks on the ground. The bear buried her, but she was still alive. And so what happened was the bear picked her up and carried her off into the woods and ate some of her, leaving her there alive, buried her, and then was going to come back later and finish her off later. And this is something that's common that bears do. They don't like to kill their prey. They like to eat it while it's alive, leave it so that the meat doesn't go bad, so that it doesn't rot, and then come back and finish what they were eating later on, so that they still have fresh meat. And so Natalia's still alive there, barely hanging on, fading in and out of consciousness. And so they scoop her up, they take her to the hospital, and she has to stay there for a couple weeks because she's gravely injured. But luckily, she's actually able to make a recovery. And to this day, Natalia and Valia are still friends, but Natalia doesn't go out in the woods like she used to because the trauma of getting mauled alive by a brown bear still haunts her to this day. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and you know where to find me. Peace.